Amsterdam Film Show. So hello and welcome to the April edition of the Amsterdam Film Show. My name's Kathy Leung and welcome David Swatling.
Hi Kathy, nice to be back.
Yeah, and as usual we're discussing the new releases in the Dutch cinemas this month. A film review.
Yes. That we actually went together to see.
Yeah, we both saw A Quiet Place, and we're going to talk about that. And some special film screenings and a festival in Amsterdam. As always, there's a film festival.
Always.
So we've got those on the show for this month. So one thing I'm excited about this month is that there's a new addition to the Film Museum programming, which is Lawrence of Arabia.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't know.
No, I didn't know about this.
All right. Well, it's a 70mm print they've just got hold of, and they've added it. So they're screening it, and it's a film that I have never ever gotten around to seeing myself.
Well, I've never seen it on the big screen, I don't think.
I've never seen it on any screen, TV or otherwise. So it's a chance for me to to see a film I should have really seen a long time ago, classic Oscar-winning film, and that so many other films, have kind of taken from ideas and reference. It's directed by David Lean from 1962. Peter O'Toole plays T.E. Lawrence, the British officer who wins the trust of the Arab princes in the struggle against the German-speaking Turks during the First World War.
All I know is that some of these restoration projects have had remarkable results. I mean, the films look brand new.
Yeah, and when I looked at the trailer of the 70mm print from the website, I thought, well, this is a film from 1962. It's colour and it looks amazing. It looks really good. Now our eyes are used to a certain quality. So, if you're worried about that, it's an old film. It feels a bit fresh, to be honest. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Now, you have to remember, it's nearly 4 hours long.
Oh my God, no cigarette break?
No, I mean, I think some Dutch cinemas do have an interval. And I think with something like this, I'd be praying for an interval. Because, you need a toilet break and stuff. So it's nearly 4 hours long. I really wasn't expecting that. People don't talk about that.
I forgot. I don't maybe that's why I never saw it in the cinema.
Which I think it means that there are certain times at which they won't schedule it. There's generally only one screening per day, and it's not every day at the Eye. Mm-hmm. So you have to look carefully there and schedule it because they're not going to show it at 8 o'clock because it'll be finished by midnight. So.
You need to get trams back and stuff.
Yeah. So it's a bit difficult to fit in your diary a 4-hour film. But certainly it's on my list and I'm determined to get there this spring. And thankfully they've got several showings every week at the Film Museum.
Excellent.
And then another special film event this month is the Imagine Film Festival.
Ah, yay.
From the 11th of April, the Imagine Film Festival runs for 10 days at the Film Museum. What's it all about? The Amsterdam Film Show asked the festival director, Chris Ostrom, to tell us more.
The Imagine Film Festival is the only festival in the country and also in Amsterdam of fantastic cinema. And fantastic cinema is, as we always say, it is cinema that gives a little nudge to reality or creates its own reality. And the genres that are naturally belong to fantastic film are science fiction, fantasy, horror, anime, and martial arts.
So looking at the programme for the Imagine Film Festival, is there anything that takes your fancy?
I'm excited about a couple of things. I think the premiere film is Isle of Dogs by Wes Anderson. Yeah, it's supposed to be great. I mean, I think it's going to be opening officially here next month, so we probably can talk about it some more then, because there are some issues already popping up about cultural appropriation and issues like that, Orientalism.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see and to talk about. But mostly, I mean, little boy searches for lost dog. What can go wrong?
So that's the storyline of Isle of Dogs, which as a kind of Londoner, I took to mean the Isle of Dogs in the UK, which is an area. Mm-hmm. But it is actually set in Japan.
That's right.
There's a chance to see this film and make your own mind up about it. It's also had good reviews, but there's several screenings, not just the opening film of the Imagine Film Festival, but during the rest of the festival there's several screenings of Isle of Dogs.
And I think there's a a 4 premiere at the Film Holland as well, and it's a lot of buzz about this film. I already have friends who've seen it in North America who said it's fantastic.
And I think screenings might well get sold out because I have a feeling Amsterdam is a bit of a Wes Anderson kind of cultural hotspot. When we had the hotel one, what was it?
Grand Budapest Hotel.
There were so many screenings. Nearly
and
every cinema, nearly every cinema in Amsterdam was showing it, and they had parties and everything. So if you want to see this film before it comes out on general release, you probably need to get your tickets fairly quickly.
Yeah, I would suggest so. Another film that I'm really interested in seeing, I think it only has 2 screenings, is called My Friend Dahmer.
Right.
And it's not an animation, although it is based on the graphic novel by Dirk Backderf. Well, if I read the little bit from the cover here, we all have that one friend from school, the strange kid, the class freak, the guy whose antics amused, entertained, maybe even alarmed us, the one who sticks in our heads even with the passing of the years. That classmate is invariably left behind when we graduate, vanishing into memory. But every now and then we wonder, whatever happened to that friend? Well, for one man who grew up in a small town in Ohio, that question was answered by every media outlet in the world in 1991, when Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested for the murder of 17 young men and teenage boys. So Dirk Backderf went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer.
Okay. And
his graphic novel is about that period in Dahmer's life before he became a serial killer. And it's supposed to be a really wonderful film. And the 2 screenings at the Imagine Film Festival are co-sponsored by the Rosa Film Dagen.
Uh-huh.
And because his sexuality was complicated, to say the least, but it's supposed to be a great film. I've heard some fantastic things about it when it first played in the States.
Is there anything else from the program that you're interested in?
Well, with a program like this, the whole idea behind the festival, they're films that inspire the imagination. I mean, there's some spooky ghost stories, it sounds like. There's a lot of animation stuff. I would suggest to people who are interested in interesting films just to get a pass, and then you get a discount on tickets, the various tickets that you go, and with it playing for 11 days, just when you're free, go off and see what's there. Sometimes a chance screening of something you knew nothing about is the most exciting.
We have many filmmakers who work in drama, who work in art house, and also work in genre. And I think those lines are blurring. We're also a festival of discovery, so we want to find new films. We want to find the latest that our audience thinks it's really, really cool, and we also want to challenge our audience a little bit, finding stuff that maybe they think when they've just seen it, like, what was that? And then enjoying it really, when on a second thought.
So if you do want to look at the films and see what's on, you can go to imaginefilmfestival.nl. So David and I have both seen a film ahead of its release, A Quiet Place, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. I saw a trailer when I was in the States, and it didn't really look fun, look fine. No big deal. It didn't register though. But when I actually saw the film, I was like, whoa!
That's odd that the trailer just didn't make an impression on you. I really wanted to see it from the trailer.
Well, maybe because so many of the trailers are so big, out there, they all look the same. And this one was a little quieter, A Quiet Place. And it just, so maybe that's why. I don't remember. But the film itself, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, so let's tell you a little bit about what it's about. Hiding out in a farmhouse from bloodthirsty but blind creatures that hunt by sound, a young family find a way to survive in silence. But how long can that last? So it's directed by John Krasinski, who, he's done 1 or 2 films, and people know him for his comedy because he was in the American version of The Office, and he pops up occasionally in fairly small roles. You don't see him in a leading role very much anymore, and so it's not his first time directing, but I kind of felt it was because I hadn't seen any big films from him.
I didn't really know him at all. I never saw The Office, the US version of The Office, and I kind of looked at his film credits, and I didn't really know any of those films. So he was really new to me, and clearly talented fellow.
Yeah, and he's not. You tend to find with horror films that the directors and the writers and everything, they're really big horror fans. He's not particularly.
No, but interestingly, like someone mentioned that, like the author and director of Get Out, they both come from comedy, and there's something similar about the way comedy and horror works in that it elicits an actual response. Whether the punchline is frightening or funny, it's the same kind of setup on film, and that may be why both of those films are more successful than some, because of the interestingly fine line between what scares us and what makes us laugh.
Yeah, and they're not looking for a passive audience. They need a reaction. They are there to they know that their role is to entertain. But it's not your typical horror film, I would say. So that's partly, it's refreshing to have him coming from, not anything like Saw or anything like that.
Well, it's interesting because the idea of it almost feels like you would have seen it before. It's such the idea of monsters that hunt on sound.
Yeah.
Sound, so you have to be quiet. It seems like such a simple idea, and yet nobody's ever done that before, and it's really effective. It's very and a couple of there's very little dialogue in the movie, because if they make noise, they're history. But also by casting his wife, Emily Blunt, they play the main couple in the family. There's a certain communication between them that happens when they're not speaking.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very clever thing. I mean, apparently he co-wrote the script and happened to give it to her to read, and he was already considering some other actress, and she said, I think I want to do this with you.
It's such an intense portrait of the family. It's that's it. There's very few other characters. Very, very, very few other characters. So it really is all about the family unit, how they communicate. There's love and there's conflict still within that family unit. And it's amazing to see that explored. Yeah, you're right, without the sound aspect, without speaking, you've suddenly got facial expressions, movements, bodily expressions. They are so much more powerful, and to see that working out within the different family characters.
Sound or silent communication is especially evident in the daughter in the family, who's played by Millicent Simmons, who you might remember if you saw this a few months ago. I raved about. She was the young girl in Wonderstruck, the Todd Haynes film, and I was saying how incredible she was. And she's also amazing in this. She actually is deaf, and so she taught the cast's American Sign Language so they could use sign language as well. And it's an important part of the plot. I mean, it's not just a device of having a deaf character in a world of quiet, but the fact that when scenes are shot from her point of view, the sound disappears completely, and that's really effective in this film.
Yeah, I mean, there's an emotional aspect to basically the three children. The daughter is deaf, but I don't know. It has got a significant kind of connection to the plot as well.
Oh yeah.
And that's why the family probably have been able to survive so long, where other people have not survived this kind of apocalypse situation, because they already knew sign language, so they were more able to stay quiet and then away from the creatures. So that's significantly why, they're there and many other families are not.
And it's really interesting the way the movie's structured too, because the opening scene, it says day 89. So fairly soon after this, we don't know whether it's an invasion or a mutant uprising, or we don't know exactly what it is. They don't explain the monsters, which I think is also a good thing.
Yeah.
That would have been, kind of blah, 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 boring. But then, so there's an opening scene which is quite boom, really hits you about the dangers of the situation they're in. And then the rest of the movie takes place over a year later, when they've got this beautiful bucolic farmhouse in the country of upstate New York. It's really where I grew up, on farms. It's so beautiful, but they've had time to organize, and they've got an alarm system. They've got, all these little details of how they have managed, why they're the family that has survived.
Yeah.
But of course, that's used to wonderful effect in terms of the plotting of the film. For instance, as soon as you see that the mom is pregnant, you immediately think, oh my God, babies make noise. Oh my God, having a baby makes noise.
It's just the way there's dread introduced. It's like you slowly realise, and it's you feel their dread, how ultimately stressful, and what they do to kind of get over it. They're always managing their feelings, and you see this struggle on their faces all the time. So I would also say at this stage, I recommend the film because it's a good film, but I also recommend you see it in a cinema because of the whole silence aspect and the quiet aspect.
I hadn't thought about that. I think that's really true.
Certainly in certain countries like the Netherlands, there's always a temptation to do illegal downloading, or people, or you can wait until the small screen. But really, a proper cinema screening of this film, you'll see it as it was meant to be seen. But no, I mean, you'll benefit from seeing it that way, and that unique situation that as an audience member you're so quiet. It's very rarely at the cinema everyone's really quiet and not eating popcorn.
You really can sense the other member. I mean, we went to a press screening. The press are usually, blah, 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 another film. But you could really sense everyone in the room holding their breath during certain scenes.
There's never-ending tension, so don't go in thinking you need some relaxation time. You're going to be on the edge of your seat from the moment the film starts. So this is out from the 12th of April in the Netherlands, and it's only 90 minutes long.
I know, and it seems even shorter, to be honest, despite some very slow setup scenes. Once it gets going, whew.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I mean, and it's sometimes you don't mention the showing length, but when you've got a film like this which has all this tension and the quietness, I think it's just about the right length.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So enjoy on our recommendation. So very quickly, we're going to give you some highlights of the rest of the new releases in the Dutch cinemas. Not all the films, but just picking out a couple. So, starting off, there's a film that has not been released, but should have been released, A Wrinkle in Time.
Which I went to see it when I was in the States last month in preparation for the show, so I could talk about the new release that was due to open this month in Holland, and now it's not going to. Did you hear why?
I don't think there has been a kind of definitive reason given. It's just been cancelled. We can just guess that it's because of the reviews and a bad performance in other geographic locations.
Yeah, I love Ava DuVernay's, the director, Selma was fantastic. She's just, I think, a little out of her depth with this material. It's
completely different
story. It's a science fiction story, which I read when I was 12 years old because it won the Newbery Award for Best Children's Book when it came out. And a lot of my, especially female friends, also read the book at about that same age, 12. And it was kind of, it's like their first science fiction book, and also written by a woman, featuring a little girl, as the main character. So there was a lot of hype around that was going to be a big thing, and the diverse casting of a young black actress playing the main girl, and Oprah Winfrey playing God, really, a caricature of herself. But that's part of the problem. I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, and Reese Witherspoon giving one of the worst performances I've ever seen on screen before. I mean, she mugs her way across the whole movie. It's so, and you want to like it. You go into it wanting to like it, and that makes it so disappointing that it just doesn't work. And I'm surprised they went to the lengths of actually cancelling the release here in Europe.
Because that's it. Because a lot of films do badly at the box office, perhaps, and get bad reviews, but then they still honour the release schedule and they still come out in other countries. But locally in the Netherlands, there is a petition, also reaching Belgium, I think, because it's affected Belgium. Yeah, so there's a petition locally started by a campaign group to bring this film to Dutch cinemas, saying that there's a lot of, especially young... Yeah, there's a lot of people expecting this film and wanting this film and wanting to go to the cinema. I'm really disappointed there isn't this opportunity. So there's a petition to bring this film out in the cinemas. You can find it on our website under the Amsterdam Film Show and on our Pinterest boards. You can sign the petition and see if that helps.
But I can say, expect to be disappointed.
Also, already at the cinemas, because it came out on the 5th of April, Lady Bird.
A much better film, I would suggest, for the young female crowd.
Yeah, okay. So it's a coming-of-age film, director-screenwriter Greta Gerwig, and starring Saoirse Ronan. I'm sure I've pronounced her name wrong.
No, that's pretty close.
All right, cool. And Laurie Metcalf, who was nominated for an award.
An Oscar.
An Oscar. So it's set in 2002. An artistically inclined 17-year-old girl comes of age in Sacramento, California. It doesn't sound like it's much of a story.
No, it doesn't. And I haven't seen the film, but I have seen many clips because during Oscar time it was all over the place, and it just looks very funny. And the relationship between mother and daughter looks very real. And yeah, it also, again, because a woman directed the film this particular year, it got a lot of push in that direction from the #MeToo kinds of movements going on.
From the 19th, we've got the 1517 to Paris, which is directed by Clint Eastwood. Now, it's a true story. It's about the US tourists who overcome a lone terrorist gunman on an Amsterdam to Paris train.
Oh, right.
Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that's out. It's not a particularly special film, but for locals who, there will be shots of Amsterdam tourists. Don't we love them? And in this case as well, the film is a little bit different in that I believe he cast the original real life people in the film. So, these are not actors playing the roles of the heroes. They are, in fact, the actual heroes.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Docudrama.
And then also that same week, 19th of April, a comedy, Blockers, which has had very good reviews. The storyline, 3 parents try to stop their daughters from having sex on prom night.
Oh, those kind of blockers.
Yeah. It's had great reviews. And when I saw this, I went, oh, another rubbish film. But loads of people have rated it. And I think, a silly comedy. I've really liked the Bad Neighbours, the films. They're stupid and silly, but I did laugh a lot in those kind of films. So I think this is going to be in that vein, and there'll be certainly people. Some people will want to go to the cinema and just have a laugh. And then from the 24th and 25th of April, you've got an animation, Sherlock Gnomes, also with Emily Blunt voicing one of the characters. A gnome. They're all gnomes, practically.
I saw Romeo and Juliet on TV over Christmas time.
Related to that series. Oh, you saw it?
During Christmas. Well, I'll watch anything during Christmas time.
Yeah. Was it any good?
Well, it's funny. It's funny. Gnomes, garden gnomes as main characters, and I laughed.
So, do you have gnomes like garden gnomes in the US as well as the UK?
Oh yeah, and the people that have them are always the crazy neighbors.
Okay, right. So there's a similar kind of cultural reference with gnomes. Okay. And then also at the end of April, Avengers: Infinity War. It's an action fantasy. We all know about the franchise. It's got nearly all of the Avengers and
that's the one
with
like 50 superheroes in one movie.
Yes. And then finally, at the end of the month, you've got the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. It's a drama based on a best-selling book. The director is Mike Newell, who's done some good films. He was famous for 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Oh, right, yeah.
Some people love and hate that, but certainly some of his more recent films have been real stinkers. But it's got some good actors in it: Tom Courtenay, Penelope Wilton, Lily James, Matthew Good. They're not bad actors.
Oh yeah.
So it's a writer who forms a bond with the residents of Guernsey Island in the aftermath of World War II, and she decides to write a book about their experiences on the island during the war. So it's that bucolic island setting.
And the author investigating other people's stories for their books, like The Help and things like that. Yeah.
And it's a semi-wartime setting. There'll be certainly an audience for that.
Yeah.
So finally, Have a Nice Day, which is a Chinese animation. But it can be problematic because there's usually only Dutch subtitles, but there's definitely screenings with English subtitles at the Film Museum.
Ah, that's great.
Yeah, so, and there is a lot of kind of anticipation for this film because it's had good reviews. So there will be people who are looking forward to this coming. What's the story about? A city in southern China and a bag containing millions in cash draws several people from diverse backgrounds with different personal motives into a bloody conflict.
Oh, cheery. Have a nice day.
So those are the highlights of the new releases in April at the Dutch cinemas, a review and some special film events and screenings as usual. If you disagreed with any of it, let us know.
Please.
Tweet us, email us. If you want to get involved, send a film review, please do. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Amsterdam Film Show.